Hey folks, Nick Cousvis here. Today we are talking Livescope. I'm talking setup. I'm going to show you a little bit how I use it while I'm fishing. You know, actually today we got a couple hours to shoot this. Come along with me. I'm going to try and catch a couple big ones. You know, not easy to do, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to show you all my setups, why I set it up the way I do. Now this is going to be geared, obviously, for the Great Lakes guy up north, clear water, but I'm going to get into a few setups on why I would change it if I was in dirtier water, shallow water, that sort of thing. Come along and let's teach you something about Livescope, help you catch more fish. So before we start fishing, I'm going to just show you a couple things. So the three dots on the bottom right-hand corner, that's your menu. You're going to get gain. Now gain is your sensitivity, right? So what I like to do, the practice I like to do, and this is how you get really good at it, this is how you dial in stuff, is when I hit gain, that's your sensitivity. If I go up all the way to 100, you can see how it blows it up. If I go all the way down, it's gone. So I'm trying to get a nice picture. I don't like my picture super clean. I want it a little bit dirty. I'll explain that later. But you know, in this case, I'm going to keep it somewhere around 71%. Now, the gain is going to be adjusted all the time. You can't leave that in one setting. Depends how shallow you are. It's going to make things look a little bit messier. The deeper you go, it's going to clear it up. So then you're going to want to raise that gain up. But that is something that you're adjusting throughout the day. Okay? Depth range, you know, I try to keep, that's basically when I get out of here, that's how deep you are right here. So we're at 24 feet, but we're actually fishing in 15 feet of water. You know, I go back and forth on this, but generally, I want to keep it about 3/4 of the screen. Now, I might go a little bit higher, you know, sometimes like that. Kind of depends on what I'm doing, but everybody's different. Understand what feels most comfortable to you. But I'm somewhere in between, you know, this is 2/3 of the screen down, or, you know, right around there seems about good. That's generally what I keep it at. But remember, if you're on a ledge or something, you're going to have to constantly adjust that. I don't keep it on auto. If I'm on a really steep ledge, I'll go to auto. That way it'll track down. So if I'm looking down to see if there's any fish deep, I may do it. Otherwise, I leave it alone. I try to keep things on manual as much as possible. Forward range, that's how far you are out. Right now I'm at 100 feet, 110, but I can go, you know, if I'm really deep, I like to go further out. I'll go all the way out. But most of the times, sorry, that's wrong there. Most of the times, I'm somewhere in, you know, about 115 to 120 feet. If I'm shallower, I'm going to go in a little bit more. If I'm deeper, that's kind of the range I like to keep. But again, play around, figure out what's good. Obviously, the further out you go, the less detail you're going to get up close because everything turns out real small. If I zoom in on this, right, you could see I'm getting more detail, how my numbers are stretched out more, so I'm going to get much more detail. So really just kind of depends what you want to work with. Transmit on and off. Now, transmit's an interesting thing. If I'm driving a lot and I'm not looking at this a lot, I'll shut that off. That saves the battery to your black box. You can't turn off the screen. It'll still, the black box will still run. So make sure that transmit is off when you're not using it and on when you are. And then you have sonar setups here. Grid overlay, you know, that's if I turn that on, you see there's a grid there. Some guys like it, some guys don't. I prefer it off. It does give you an idea how big fish are, how big a piece of cover is, whatever. I really just keep that off. That's just preference for me. On-screen control, that's just all your stuff. I keep that on if I want to adjust because I'm adjusting on the fly all the time. Reverse range right here. So reverse range is basically, if I hide it, you're going to see right now, nothing behind the boat shows. If I want to have some, you see how everything moved forward? So if I'm jigging, if I'm looking at a fish that might have gone under the boat or behind the boat, I'm still going to be able to see it. It just depends. Generally, if I'm fishing deeper, I'm going to move that reverse range to at least minimum so I can see under and a little bit behind the boat. If I'm in shallow water, I get rid of it just because all the detail I want is going to be in front of my boat. I'm not too concerned about what's under my boat in 3 feet of water. Compress range, right now I have it on. I'll explain that. Compress range, what it does, you can see how the numbers are even here. If I go back in there to layout and I go to compress range, turn it on, what it does is it stretches out the numbers close to the boat and shrinks them. If I want more detail closer to the boat, I'll use it. If I want it to be basically the same across the board, then I turn it off. Again, it's a preference thing. It's not a good or bad thing. It just depends, you know, what you want. I play around with both, see what you're comfortable with. So that's that. We go back in here, and so layout's done. So here's a couple things that are pretty important. Noise reject. Right now you see I have it on high. So if I tap that in, you can turn it off. If I turn it off, you get a lot of stuff going on there. I just find that the screen's too messy. For what we do here, I like this on high. Watch how it cleans that up. But you don't lose detail. It just gets rid of all the clutter that's not important. So in our clear lakes, I find that noise reject on high is the way to go. Ghost reject, back when the LVS 32 was on, there was this ghost tree. So if you shut it off, which I have it off, there'll be a little bit of tree. But what happens if you turn it on, you lose all the detail kind of in this area. I don't like it. So I keep it off, or I keep it, you might put it on auto if you want, but I just really don't like anything on auto. So I just go off or low is what I do with my ghost reject. TVG, time variance gain, very similar in the sense that if right now I have it off, if I go high, you see how everything disappeared here? Watch if I go back and put it on off. See how those little, again, you're losing detail. I don't like doing that, so I keep it off. I want as much detail as I can, so I keep that off. The only thing I turn on is the noise reject. I have it on high. Overlay data is just your stuff here. You can use what you want, take off what you want. Installation, couple things here. Stabilization I have on, that just keeps your screen nice and neat. You don't get that wonkiness going on. Orientation, that is whether you want down, forward, or perspective. Depends what mode your transducer's in. A lot of guys like to use auto. I like to keep it what I'm using it on. So I'm in forward mode, I'm tapping forward. Simple as that. Okay, so then we go back to, let's go into appearance. Couple very important things here. So color gain, if I go all the way down, look how the detail goes away. I want my color gain on high most of the time. I'm in the 90s, sometimes 100, sometimes 85, never lower than that. Again, I want as much detail. See how it makes the bottom pop. It'll make your rocks pop. It'll make your jig pop. It'll make your fish pop. All that, very important. I like it high. Color limit is kind of the opposite, right? If I go all the way up, see how it gets rid of everything? It actually doesn't look like a Garmin anymore. So I keep this on off or keep it on very low. Like I'm usually no more than 10% or 0. Doesn't really matter. I don't play around with that. The less is better. More detail again is important. Trails, basically anything moving, you'll get a trail behind. I don't like it. I keep it off. Some guys like it if they're jig fishing, or maybe if you're scanning around. If fish took off and you didn't see it, that trail still might be there, which gives you an idea that something was going on. So that's it. Bottom fill, you could see when I turn it on, it kind of shows you exactly where the bottom is. There's some situations, particularly if you're a walleye guy, where they're in the mud, sometimes you might see them a little bit better. I kind of keep it off because I fish a lot of rock and boulders and stuff like that. It just gets in the way. So that's pretty much the setup, other than your color scheme. Now your color schemes, we have so many in Garmin, kind of depends what you want, you know, moss, aqua, you know. There are certain ones I like better than others. You know, I like that black emerald, I like the amber. A lot of guys like the blue. The blue can be good too. It just kind of depends on the situation. I'm changing it all the time. Depends on, you know, conditions going on. Is it cloudy? Is it sunny? I'm picking a screen that I can see best. But for now, for me anyways, amber I tend to feel is the best. Giant. They're so strong. There you go. Wow. Giant. Man, what a fish. Holy heat, look at that fish. You know, I scoped that fish, watched him swim away, threw the bait at it, let it settle down, and then he ate it. And man, it's like money. All right, let's put her back. Swim away, baby, swim away. There she goes.